Okay, Klaus.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Regards from NTG Alliance for the fourth panel session of this online conference. I'm happy to welcome, as you see in the room at the moment, the colleagues that will participate in this session as panelists. I go just as I see them, Mr. Lajos Borocz from the Hungarian Entrepreneur Association, Ms. Ana Maria Camps from CEAT, Spanish Hotel Association, Marta Machado from Hotrec, Marie-Helene Pradines from the European Commission, DG Grow, Theodor Grassos from the Vocational Education European Federation, Rino Vitelli, our project manager, and Leontine, who is in the background just pulling the strings. Without any further delay, I will start sharing my screen and give a quick introduction. And then we have the statements or the views from our panelists. So let's move on. Here you go. Fourth module, the road ahead on skills in tourism. Quickly, the purpose of this module, the purpose of the session, a quick overview about the political context in which we move at the moment with the Pact for Skills, with NTG Alliance, with skills developments in tourism, a current state of art of the Pact for Skills in tourism. Then a very interesting point that we need to keep in mind, the ecosystem of skills initiatives currently in course or about to happen in tourism at EU level. It's not only us in this world. And the roles of different views of agents and stakeholders that should get involved when we talk about implementing a long-term strategy regarding skills, not only in tourism, but in our case, of course, in tourism. And finally, the information about how we move from the current ending project, NTG Alliance, to the follow-up consortium called PANTOUR. So that's the purpose and the sequence. And let's start with the context. Where are we? Well, in 2016, a European skills agenda was defined. It was updated in 2020. As a result of this European skills agenda, starting from 2018 with the call 2017, to prepare, let's say, the cooperation for each of the 14 ecosystems, 40 sectors of the European economy. DG Employment started within the Erasmus program to launch calls for sectoral skills alliances that should prepare a blueprint. Blueprint means to set the base for future cooperation. As you have heard already this morning, the first session, basically set the floor, prepare the floor for a long-term cooperation between all relevant stakeholders in favor of developing policies and activities regarding skills. In our case, for tourism, and one of these projects, the one for tourism, was the Next Tourism Generation Alliance, which started 1st of January 2018 and finishes now the 30th of June. This same concept, but no longer a blueprint called blueprint, because the blueprint is set now. We do the blueprint. Now in the future, we still have likely every year new alliances for sectoral cooperation in tourism and in other sectors that will add to this, let's say, financed structure that can work between different agents and parts of the tourism value chain and tourism ecosystem on the topic of skills. In the same time, so these are kind of preparatory or lateral action to support what the European skills agenda was looking for. That is basically the Pact for Skills, which was launched 2020. We start working on the Pact for Skills in tourism in 2021. And as you will see now in the next slide, we launched it this year in January. And those who are familiar with this process already understand the important role that the fact of having this next to General Alliance resources available, how important this was to kick off and keep running currently the Pact for Skills in Tourism. So this is the political context where we stand at the moment. Quickly, to the Pact for Skills in Tourism, where do we stand? As I said, it was launched the 31st of January. By June, I checked yesterday, we have now 66 supporting organizations. They are very well distributed between private sector industry, education, university and vocational training, and the, let's say, government public sector with regions and destinations. You see the figures here, it's 24, 2019, plus trade unions. So it's really a very equilibrated list of participants. That is what we pretend. Everybody has to be there and has to participate. Currently, as I say, 66 supporting organizations. What are the priority actions? Well, these are still wish lists. We will discuss this amongst the signatories, but currently we have a short and midterm, which are the practical objectives. First of all, and I'm sure Marta from Hotrec will comment on this, we have a clear problem with staff and skill shortages in the tourism sector at this moment, post-COVID. So we need to address this. We, of course, need to make this work on the ground where the competencies are in regions and in member states. So it's a setup of the regional skills partnerships. This was presented in detail this morning as well. Important not only to talk about skills, but really have a demand and make people understand, make workers, make SMEs, make businesses understand that it's not enough with having a tourism title after university or after a vet training. You need to do it lifelong because new skills, new profiles, new occupations are coming along all the time. We also heard many of them in 2030 are not even known yet. So we need to be prepared for that. For this, we need skills intelligence, new needs coming up, gaps that appear, how to solve them, methodologies. And the overall target, let's say the biggest target we have in the Pact for Skills at the moment, is to upskill 10% each year of the current workforce in tourism until 2029, which would give more or less, starting in 22, more or less 80–90% of our workforce would be at least have one reskilling in the next 10 years, or next 9 years really, because it's not so many left. So that's quite ambitious, but this is what we're working on. And of course, long term, we need to work on the training system, education system. Certainly, Theodor will have to say something on this. Make it flexible, make it inclusive, allow access to training for all, not only the traditional employees in hotels. We have a lot of self-employed. We have a lot of individuals. I'm thinking about tour guides. I'm thinking about freelancers. They also need access. Very important, because this is a reason, part of the reason of the staff shortages. We need to improve the image of working in tourism. This can best be done by having interesting, qualified, and jobs that are fun. So this is a thing that goes along with improving skills, improving knowing what they need, also to create a better image of the work as such in our sector. And with all this together, have a set of future-proof skills and competencies that allow tourism to be not only now in the next years overcome the COVID-19, but also make it long-term resilient and sustainable in view of all the changes that are coming up. So these are the priority actions at the moment for the Pact for Skills. And now we'll come to the ecosystem of skills initiatives. And this is something that is new also for those that are frequently participating in the meeting for Pact for Skills. Of course, we have this top layer where we have the Pact for Skills currently, which has the signatories and will have its own structure of governance for those that sign. And we have the alliances for sectoral cooperation, out of which now for the next year, it is only PANTOUR project, which Anna Maria will present at the end. But it is very likely that there will be more such alliances in the coming years, because the program from DG Employment is 5 or 6 years going on. So we will have several, let's say, alliances that can work and support in the topics related with skills, together with the Pact for Skills, that is, let's say, the representative body for all stakeholders related with skills development in tourism in Europe. To make this possible, there's a proposal to have an advisory board from the Pact for Skills to these alliances. This is under discussion with the Pact for Skills members, and of course, then they support work neutral. So this is, let's say, the operative structure we will have in the next years. Pact for Skills on one side, alliances for sectoral cooperation. But the point is, we are not alone in this world. We have, of course, logically, DG Employment, which is the entity, the part of the Commission that launched the Pact for Skills across all ecosystems. So they are, of course, intervening, and they have support services which can help in this. We have the European Commission, DG Grow, where Marie-Helene will present probably now the transition pathway for tourism, which has, again, 6 or 7 topics of the actions related with skills in tourism. So this is definitely a player to keep in mind when we talk about skills in tourism. We are not alone with the Pact for Skills and the alliances. And we have a new upcoming initiative that comes from the European Parliament that has put forward a proposal to set up a European Union Tourism Academy platform, which again is related with training, more in the applied way, training content, training services, but also overlapping in skills, of course, skills development, in skills intelligence, and many others that could appear in the future. So these need to work together. It does not help if anybody says, I have my budget, I will do my job, I don't bother what the other does. No, they have to work together. And the idea that we put forward currently from the NTG Alliance is that as we appear as an entity and as a name, we will give this as an open platform, Pact for Skills in Tourism, as a brand for having all these working together. How this will be managed is something open at the moment, but this is the idea because the name Next Tourism Generation Alliance completely reflects what all these stakeholders plan to do, make us fit for the future in the tourism sector. So far my setting the frame, and I'm now happy to invite in this sequence Marie-Helene Pradines, then Marta, Theodor, Lajos, and finally Anna Maria to present the PANTOUR. Marie-Helene, the floor is yours. I will stop sharing my screen and you can join.
Thank you very much, Klaus, and thank you first of all for this invitation. And let me first congratulate NTG Alliance for these valuable outputs over the last years in the Blueprint project to address skills gap in the tourism sector. And it's it is a project supported by the Commission, as you explained it in your introduction. And of course, we look forward to building on the results of this follow-up with the PANTOUR project, which is about to start. Just to complete this introduction, I mean, let me maybe give the general framework, but it was quite clear in your introduction to explain that the skills in general are under the competence of DG Emploi, but it's up to us in DG Grow to implement, to help for the implementation of the Pact for Skills in the different partnerships. So to be more concrete, I mean, I will go for a presentation. Let me share my screen. I hope it will work. Voilà. Let's see. Yeah, can you see my slides?
Yep, perfect.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, my first slide. I mean, I will be very short because I mean it's more or less what you explained already, Klaus, in your introduction. To remind that this European skill agenda, I mean, the objective is to accelerate upskilling and reskilling in all the 14 industrial systems, which includes, of course, tourism, with the objective to join all forces, and it is an important point, meaning industry, social partners, vet providers, and also all the national, regional, and local authorities to implement this skill agenda. We have today 11 large-scale partnerships established to date. And tourism, as you reminded, it was launched end of January 2022, and we have today 62 members for this partnership. And of course, I wanted to remind as well that this invitation to join the Skills Partnership remains, of course, open. So any of the participants in the audience can join and contribute to it. So the idea is to mobilize the national members at national or regional levels to set up this national and regional skills partnership with local stakeholders. I mean, to really implement concretely on the ground this framework with more concrete actions. It can be action plans. We have defined a number of KPIs agreed in the general partnership. It can be via setting up upskilling and reskilling initiatives, again, concretely on the ground, to achieve this common goal. And we also have the national recovery plans placed to access EU and national regional funding to help implementing these initiatives. Funding is, of course, an important point. And more funding can be available via the European Social Fund. So this is the general framework, and it is what you already explained in the introduction. So now let me go a bit more into the detail and explain the link with the tourism transition pathway. You maybe know that the updated industrial strategy adopted by the Commission last spring in 2021 called for the development of a co-created transition pathway for each of the 14 ecosystems with the objective to help accelerate the green and digital transition and also through resilience of the different sectors, especially to make them stronger after the pandemic. Tourism was the sector most hit by the pandemic and was identified at that time as a priority for the transition pathway. So we launched the co-creation process just after the adoption of the industrial strategy in spring 2021. And we, during several weeks and months, we went through this co-creation process with all stakeholders, and the transition pathway for tourism was published in February 2022. And it is a report. I mean, we can provide you with the link if need be, where we identify 70 actions and 27 topics area, so related to the twin transition and resilience. These actions are the actions identified during this co-creation process with all stakeholders to help the sector to cope with the twin transition and to become stronger after the pandemic. And skills has a particular place in the tourism transition pathway. It is part of the resilience dimension. If you check into the transition pathway report, you will see that we have 2 topics and 4 actions dedicated directly to the Pact for Skills. You have them on the screen. So it goes from raising awareness on skills needs, setting up the skills partnership, which is, as I explained, one of the main objectives of the implementation of the Pact for Skills, mobilize and engage all actors to commit to training targets, and also put in place training courses, apprenticeship schemes, I mean, anything that can improve the situation, the skill situation in the sector for unemployed and job seekers. So this is, as you see, I mean, this skill agenda is really one of the main part of the resilience dimension of the tourism transition pathway. Now, following the adoption of the report and the identification of the actions to be implemented, we also have defined how to implement this transition pathway. And as we were talking about the co-creation with all the stakeholders, we are now talking about the co-implementation as well with all the actors of the sector. And we call it T40, sorry, Together for EU Tourism. So this co-implementation phase means, first of all, to collect commitments for the implementation of the tourism transition pathway. We launched a call of commitments just after the publication of the pathway. The first wave ended end of May, but I mean, it will be a continuing process, but we wanted end of May to take stocks of the commitments. So far today, we gathered more than 120 commitments. They come from a wide range of tourism stakeholders, and we plan to publish them before the summer break, hopefully still this month. You have also in the slide the explanation of these commitments. I mean, why we are gathering this. I mean, it's a way to mobilize the actors of the sector to implement these actions. I will not go into the detail of the slide. Maybe I take this opportunity to mention that we already have some commitments concerning the implementation of the actions identified for skills. We have, for example, Costa Group. Costa Group took the commitment to educate 50,000 students across EU to take care of coast and sea. So it's one of the commitments. We also have different regions, Toscana, for example, which commit to define concretely some partnerships to implement the Pact for Skills. So as you see, I mean, this implementation of the Pact for Skills go through the tourism transition pathway as well. I mean, the link is very, very tight. So now, what should be the next step for the implementation of this Pact for Skills? Still linked with the pathway, as I explained. We plan to set up a collaborative platform, so called Together for EU Tourism. We plan to set up this platform next year, early next year. This platform should be a one-stop shop for all tourism stakeholders to find and exchange information and to monitor the commitments. We also plan to set up an expert group divided in different subgroups. One for the green transition, one for the digital transition, but also one for the resilience and skills to follow up on this implementation of the transition pathway. And we are also today working with member states on the elaboration of a new agenda for tourism, which would be the commitment from the Council, from the member state to implement the pathway, and with the objective to establish a new multi-annual work program for tourism to which member states could commit. Again, one of the guiding objectives of this work program will be to contribute to the development of skills needed for the sector, to upskill and reskill the workforce, and to have all the actions we have identified in the transition pathway for skills implemented via the collaborative platform, followed up by this expert group, and taken on board by this EU agenda for tourism that should be adopted by the Council. So this is a general framework. As you see, we still have a lot to do, and we count on all the good wills to follow up on this. I mean, we are, I would say, at the beginning of the journey, and I mean, everyone should contribute to it. So do not hesitate to commit yourself to implement these actions, to follow up on the Pact for Skills with concrete actions on the ground. I will stop there, and of course, I will be ready later on to answer all the questions you might have concerning the Pact for Skills and this implementation of the transition pathway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie-Helene. This was, as you see, it's quite ambitious. We, of course, are part with skills. We are part of the whole transition pathway, but we are an important part. So this was the view from the, let's say, wish list from the political side. And now we come to our stakeholders. What do they think about Marta? The floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Klaus, and good afternoon to all. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. So maybe just a quick introduction about what HOTREC is, as I'm representing HOTREC. So it's the European Association of Hotels, Restaurants and Cafes in Europe. So we represent 2 million companies, provide around 12 million jobs, and 90% of the companies being micro enterprises and 90% SMEs, and therefore really striving to continue surviving in this difficult period. So today I'm here to talk a little bit about our views as social partners. So I have to say that our trade union counterpart is EFAT, and we develop a social dialogue already for more than 20 years together. We have developed many actions. We have a very rich working program, but really with a focus on skills and education fundamentally. Because already before the COVID crisis, the skills shortage was always affecting the sector. And I can give two very good examples of joint actions that we have done together as social partners. One was the Hospitality Skills Passport, which is an online platform that put together employers and employees in the sector according to their skills and the tasks that they develop in the hospitality sector. Unfortunately, this platform is no longer online, but we are still asking for the Commission to revamp it, but also for members to develop such platforms at national level. And on the other hand, we also signed up a joint pledge under the umbrella of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, and we continuously motivate our national associations to develop these apprenticeship schemes at national level, always taking into account that skills, education, lifelong learning are of absolutely importance for the sector. Now, what are the current challenges related with our sector these days? So as I told you, we were already facing the skill shortages before COVID. So for instance, we were looking for cooks, especially because this was something really that was missing, also digital skills, language skills, interpersonal skills. But after the crisis, our sectors, one of the sector's really main challenges is the lack of labor force. And this is really dominating the discussions amongst our members at national level, and also of huge concern for us at EU level. So we have examples from, for instance, our members in France, 200,000 employees are missing. In Austria, 50,000 employees are missing. Overall in the EU, and now in 2022, we see from Eurostat that we are missing between -10 and -20% of the workforce. So the problem is, despite the fact that we have a lot of demand, and it's a very good thing that after so many months and almost 2 years of lockdowns and travel restrictions, finally we have customers willing to enjoy our restaurants and willing to stay in our hotels, but we don't have enough employees to deliver the correct service and the quality service. And we have, I mean, just to give you an example, I was last week in Slovenia with our Slovenian members. They gave us one very good example. So there is a new hotel with many floors, brand new, with a lot of investment that has been done, and they are simply unable to open the hotel because they cannot find people to work on it. It's extremely concerning. Other not so severe examples are, for instance, examples the members tell us that complete floors of hotels cannot open. They remain closed because of the labor shortage. Or, for instance, restaurants who now close 1 or 2 days a week when they would be willing to stay open the entire week, but they cannot because they cannot afford to have certain personnel, and they cannot find enough personnel to work on the restaurant. So that is really of concern. Now, how are we going to overcome this labor shortage? Well, we really consider, together with the social partners, that education and learning activities are really crucial, of utmost importance, and we hope that training and qualification of workers is really a segment that was put in the forefront of the recovery and resilience facility plans. We are still hoping that these training opportunities would be included in these plans. On the other hand, of course, we continue, and that's the reason why we signed up, and we encourage really all our members to sign up for this Pact for Skills, because we consider this, together with the development of apprenticeship schemes at national level, could really be some of the measures that could eventually bring some light into the tunnel for this crisis. So we usually look into immediate action and longer term. And for immediate action, what we need is to recover these people. We need to either to recover the people who we lost, or to try to find new people who are interested and attracted to work in our sector. We need massive trainings for these people. And this is, again, where we consider that really working together in both of the initiatives, both Pact for Skills and apprenticeship schemes, is very important. All stakeholders together, as Marie-Helene also pointed out, as Klaus also pointed out, public and private sector coming together, tourism stakeholders, vet providers, national, regional authorities, all bringing an added value to some soft skills training, something that could be done fast and in an easy way, so that people don't lose much time. But in the long run, a lot more needs to be done. And I also think that Marie-Helene also covered a lot of this, but we consider that there needs to be the skills gap that needs to be detected. Curricula needs to be updated and prepared in accordance with the company's needs. There needs to be new occupational profiles to be designed. There needs to be new training strategy for tourism workers to improve the digital and sustainability skills. And here we go much aligned with the transition pathways. We see that, for instance, on digital, in an hotel, how to work with a PMS, property management system, or a control management system is of crucial importance. To develop knowledge on water management, on energy efficiency, how to reduce food waste, are all qualities that are fundamental for the good performance of the hospitality establishments. Not to forget, of course, still the interpersonal skills, the language, and also cooking skills, because our members are also in need for that. So lifelong learning experience. But on top of that, it's also good that when everyone has a training, a certificate is provided. But more than that, it is important that there is a recognition of the qualifications, and the validity of the knowledge of these trainings is also provided. So now for us, our goal is really that all over Europe, these measures are taken. I mean, it's great that, of course, we need to start somewhere, so that in some countries, some measures are probably more developed than in others, but really all over, because this is a problem that we face all over Europe, and we would really encourage that everyone gets involved in a geographical extended manner. But of course, education is very important, but it's not the only solution. So maybe I would just finalize by giving our views as well on other very important points that we consider important in order to fight the labor shortages. And one is also to have scientific evidence on the reasons of the labor shortages. And we are still counting on DG Employment to provide us some reasoning and some scientific evidence of where did people go and why are we facing these challenges. It might not be only on our sector, because talking to other employers, we understand that this is really a general problem. We talk to the metal, to the construction, to other sectors, and they all say that they have the same challenge. So it could be something general, but it's good to have a good scientific base. On the other hand, we very much welcome the package on legal migration put forward by the Commission. We consider that also the medium and the low skilled should be included as well, because that's the type of people that we need. And indeed, the agilization of the procedures is really key, and to decrease the number of timing that these procedures has, it's really of crucial importance. On the other hand, we also look forward to see where does it go, this pool of talent that DG Home is going to activate during summer to put in contact employers and refugees coming from Ukraine. So this is a pilot project, probably going to be extended to further third countries, but that could eventually be also quite interesting for members. And finally, overall, we consider that probably giving some support to Ukrainian refugees and helping them in further integrating in society, namely in our sector, it could be interesting, even though we know that whenever the situation is stable, they want to be back. But most of the people are women, so that is good for our sector. Of course, we have the problem of the language, but we count also with the support from governments on this. And of course, the promotion of different forms of work, like part-time, fixed-term contract, agency work, casual work, because this really facilitates work-life balance, career choices, social inclusion, and also automatization and digitalization of procedures, because this will help. No one is willing to replace the human touch, and we really should consider that the quality of the service is very important, but this will probably help companies in facilitating the marking activities and also their internal procedures. So we look at the future. We consider that these initiatives are very important. We encourage members to do so, but we of course need the very much needed support as well from governments and national level, because we know that, well, money for trainings is really mostly led by governments, and therefore we really hope that national governments ask for these in terms of the European social funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marta. I'm just a bit, my irony mode goes on. My watch goes different to you, as I think. Just keep in mind, you had 7 minutes. You were both considerably over that. Sorry, but this is unfair for those that are now with less time left. Anyway, Theodor, maybe you speak faster.
Well, to be honest, I cannot speak longer because of my voice and the restrictions of COVID. But so I will try my best to speed up a little bit. First of all, thank you very much. I'm Theodor Grassos. I'm the Secretary General of the European Association of Institutes for Vocational Training. Indeed, there is a problem at this moment in the finding of staff, of employees that are also of the adequate skills that are needed by the market. On the other hand, there are specific needs today for upskilling and reskilling of the workforce that is active in the tourism industry. There are two main areas. There are new trends that are here. Obviously, sustainability and digitalization in the tourism sector, while also tailored and personal touristic experiences are gaining. And we need to prepare our employees, our staff, and also attract new employees in order to tackle these issues. But let's take them one by one. On the one hand, we have the green skills. In the tourism industry, and they have been indicated already in 2015 and 2017, that sustainable tourism is one of the most important things today. Green skills are required, one, to make optimal use of environmental resources that constitute today a key element in tourism development, maintaining essential ecological processes and helping to conserve natural heritage and also biodiversity. On the other hand, we have to respect socio-cultural authenticity of the hosting societies. This is very, very important. And finally, we need to ensure viable long-term economic operations, providing socio-economic benefits to all the stakeholders. On the other hand, in terms of digital skills, Web 4 is a new trend, as we all know. We now have the intelligent agents, we have powered artificial intelligence, big data analytics, robotics, VR. They are all also included now in the tourism industry. Therefore, tourism management, in our opinion, has become inseparable from information technology. This means that digitalization is redefining jobs and also creating new ones which require new competences and skills in the tourism environment. So we have an explosion and rapid evolution of digitalization in the tourism sector that requires new specific knowledge, not only from employees, but also from tourism entrepreneurs. We are referring to SMEs who often lack the necessary e-management skills to keep up with the development. So they are losing on competitiveness, and eventually at some point, they are out of the market. Therefore, the importance of digital skills in the tourism sector has been highlighted during the recent research. Within this context, future skills across all tourism subsectors should result to digital fluency through, one, we need to learn our people to have self-learning capacities, which means that they will be able also alone to learn new things. We have to provide them with e-business related skills, an example, branding, marketing, social media, how we are reviewing social media and so on. Data protection, of course, cybersecurity is an issue and how we are going to secure that. And finally, the ability to create and deliver, as I said, customized and personalized experiences using also VR or other mixed reality technologies. So the question now is the training and educational system ready? The answer is not. Unfortunately, the current education system has not been yet able to adapt to the new challenges. On the contrary, training curricula need time to be adapted or changed, while the structure of the trainings are not providing a flexible environment. Universities need approval for changing the content of the lessons they provide, while on the other hand, VET providers and private academies who could provide faster trainings are not shown the responsiveness and adaptivity that we would expect. We have small-scale trainings at the moment, but unfortunately, they are not tailored enough. They are not a result of a discussion with the market, either at a national, a regional, or even more on a local level. And then we are coming to the difficult part, financing on the one hand and support from the governments on the other hand. At this point, I would like to highlight that even today, when we have the ILAs, the micro-credentials that are in the epicenter with new directives, unfortunately, only a few countries, in example, France, Netherlands, are working on these issues. Most of the countries are not. But to be optimistic, we have the Pact for Skills for Tourism, which is one of the parts that is very necessary. And on the other hand, we do have the realization of all stakeholders that we need to sit down and find solutions together, creating knowledge triangles and creating vet business partnerships, not at an EU level, but as low as possible at a grassroots level, at a local level. Within this context, I would like to say that we need to highlight the good practices and go to our countries and push them to do more for a better workforce and for a more competitive tourism product. At the end of the day, we are all tourists, aren't we? I speeded up, Klaus. I think I'm done.
Thanks very much. Your voice survived. That's happy. I'm happy to listen that you're still with voice at the end. This was very concise, and I think a lot of new ideas and clear speak, as I would call. So let's jump now after the three, let's say, main agents: public sector, social partners, and education system. Let's move to the level again where all these three already work together. We had the example this morning already in the first session with the national regional skills partnerships. We have one more case, but more looking already as what they are doing and how they are interacting also with other sectors, not just keeping in the tourism bubble. There's a world outside. We depend on transport, we depend on machinery, we depend on many other aspects. And we also need to work together with these other ecosystems. And the floor is open for Lajos.
Thank you. I shall also try to share my screen. Can you see it? Hello?
Yet? No, we see you.
And the slides?
No, we see you. Murphy's Law was when we did the test before it worked. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we have heard both from Marie-Helene and from Marta that our sector is very much hit. And really, when we started this whole NTG, our sector has fought with the labor problems. And now, after the pandemic, this has really become very actual. And I would give one more point to it, that we see that we have lost a lot of trust with the actual and possible employees. So I think that this whole Pact for Skills activity can help us to regain part of the trust. It will be a good motion on the way to achieve it. We have done the practice. It was not so easy at the very beginning to collect the interested partners to make the national skills group, but at the end we have done it already by January. In April we could really have our hybrid meeting, in our meeting where we have created this group. I think it's very important to have a strong person who can preside the body. Our selection seems to be very promising. The gentleman has started from the low ranks of the hospitality, has become restaurant and hotel director, actually is also deputy director of vet school, and he's also professor at the university, so hope that we have the good selection. Our association and I myself, we are doing the coordination rules. It wouldn't have been easy to find someone else who would do it without necessary financing and necessary manpower background. As also the others, of course, we have the task to introduce and to disseminate the culture of the lifelong learning. Partnership is obvious that we have to create some very strong skills partnerships, because otherwise we cannot succeed. We have to monitor the supply and demand of the possible skills trainings, and we have to anticipate the future skills needs, for which we have received a wonderful tool from Corney and his team. Theodor has mentioned it, but we have felt it also that there are fears from the actual structures when they have seen appearing a new body, this National Skills Council. But we think that our role is not to take over some state or chamber of commerce or other roles, but the only major role is to accelerate this adaptation process. So once we have that wonderful tool to make the skills assessment with the skills assessment methodology, and we have the exact answers, what kind of expectations are there in 3, 4, 5 years, then we have to push it through very fast, the accreditation system or the VET school system, and then it will be easy to apply them. We have members from education, accommodation, gastronomy, travel agencies, tour operators, and professional associations. We have selected in our inaugural meeting the topics we want to touch in the first year, which is not a full year, so we didn't want to be too ambitious. We want to repeat, if not this year, then next year, definitely the skills assessment for our sector. Working in this business, my boss used to say, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. This is very true also for this sector, and it happens also in other countries. In our country, it's very true that we don't have very exact numbers about the number of employees, their level of training. Also because below the 5%, there is no data collection in Europe. So no one can have an idea how many people with what kind of capabilities are working in our companies. Therefore, we shall have to work on the collection of the data, and also the age pyramid is very critical in Hungary, for example. Then our major topic will be the dissemination of the NTG results, because I think that both the skills assessment methodology and the matrix will be a very, very useful tool, not speaking about the learning content that will be put at disposal. The tools are there to improve the skills levels for the various positions in the companies. So we just have to take care of the widest possible dissemination of these tools. and we have to build a very nice network, both with the public and the private entities. We have made some tests. Some of them are in course, already finished with the travel agency with a very good feedback, the utilization of some partial training stuff from the NTG. We are working now on the fast food service training material. In the gastronomy, we have started actually 2 courses, each of them about 200 hours, not at the high level, but at the lower levels, kitchen assistant and assistant waiter. And for the higher level, we try to create a common training with a hospitality academy created by partially state and partially by association. And what we are working on is the extension of our national skills group. We have to be stronger with the state and also on the quality issues. We absolutely have to improve the association of the adult training suppliers. And as Klaus has just mentioned, we have discussed with our Business Hungary Association, which is the umbrella organization of the employers. And as there are other economic realities, other sectors that have the same task to improve the skills level, we start to study the synergy possibilities with these ecosystems. We hope to use them eventually later on, then also on European level. Thank you.
Thank you, Lajos. Before I pass to Anna Maria, who is kind of closing, summarizing, and telling what the next consortium will work, I would like to launch one question that came from the public in the discussion. Lopke, thanks for forwarding this. And it deals widely with the reasons and possible solutions for the staff shortage. Summarizing, we have a problem. We know that the working conditions are not the best, to say it politely, compared with other sectors, especially you have to work when others go on holiday, so that's not a nice situation for nobody. But on the other hand, we have the possibility for a lot of self-realization as a human being interacting with others, which would move into the area of making tourism an attractive place to work, maybe not so much because of the pay or working conditions, which need to be looked at, definitely, but also to create a better image that this is a nice, personally satisfying place to work, as it used to be years ago. I would like to have a quick, if anybody of the panelists wants to comment on this, because this is possibly the core issue. If we are not attractive for people to work in the sector, for whatever reason, but this reason that is not necessarily financial economic, then we have a problem. Theodor, you raise your hand. Yes, please.
Yes, this brings me in mind a conversation I had last week with a representative from the DEHOGA in Germany. He told me that in the tourism sector, normally people work for a few months, not the whole year, because it's a seasonal, in most of the country, it's a seasonal working job. Then we had 2 years of COVID. People were not earning even the basic salary, because they were depending a lot from the fact that they were getting tips, but the compensation from the governments was basically based on the salary they had, on the official salary. So, and then they have found out that there are also other working opportunities. In example, the construction sector. So unfortunately, all this stuff is reluctant now to return because they have seen that there are also other opportunities to find a decent job from Monday to Friday, 8 hours, and all year around. So unfortunately, I believe that this is the main issue and that we should all have a clear look of how to increase the image of the tourism sector in order to make it attractive again, and also maybe increase the salaries. So in my opinion, this is the main, let's say, set of challenges we need to face and the reason why we have these shortages at this moment.
Marta?
Thanks, Klaus. I think I have addressed already most of the points during my intervention. Actually, we also thought that during the pandemic, because we were the hardest sector hit and people were willing to work, they went to other sectors. But as I said during my intervention, when talking to other sectors, we understand that it's not only a problem of the tourism sector, it's really a general problem, a global problem. We understand as well, unfortunately, and this is something that needs to be said, well, I mean, many of the people were actually preferring to stay at home due to these government subsidies instead of going to work. And we have heard this continuously at local level. We were the ones asking for this support, and our members tell us that they were immensely supportive and helpful for thousands of employment and jobs across Europe. But on the other hand, we also need to have people who are responsible enough for when they can go to work. In terms of salaries and working conditions, we always say that this is something that needs to be discussed at national level. It's not at EU level. And we know that at national level, a lot of things have been changed and improved already now. But once you start increasing, you always get some more demand. So sometimes that is not really the way forward. The way forward is as well to look for other possibilities on work-life balance, as I said, on career choices, on understanding the employee, etc., etc. That passes also for all that, and also to promote the image of the sector, its attractiveness, without a doubt. And well, I mean, to provide other conditions, like for instance, provide different options of contracts, as I also mentioned before, just to give a few ideas. Thanks.
Thank you, Marta. Lajos, and then I pass on.
I think that the NTG has developed some tools that can be used also for this purpose. Once we have identified an employee in our company who has certain skills and is paid accordingly, but if he had 2 more skills and could do another job or another job as well, or a job better, then the remuneration can be higher. And it's the same true that if someone enters the company, enters at the lowest level, but if with the tools of these coming from the matrix and learning that learning content, can hire his degree of skills, then can be remunerated better. We have to obtain anyway that value added that can be then redistributed to the employees. I think NTG can be a step ahead in this this solution of this problem.
Okay, thank you, Lajos. There is no further comment from the panel. There is another question from the tour guides, which goes, I think, very much in the line we commented already, or that was commented when I made the introduction of this part and also by the speakers. Not everything is money. And I just an anecdote to close this. I talked with colleagues from our organization in Austria, Farm Tourism, and they looked for a marketing director, and they thought, well, they won't find anybody because they have low pay and they are not so big, visible like big corporation. And they were surprised to get a lot of applications from young people that had been working in big companies in marketing, and they said, no, we want a job that we like to do, even if the pay is a bit less, but it's better for our work-life balance. And I think we have to look into these people that are prepared to work only a couple of hours a week, not a full salary, maybe combining with other tasks. So there is a lot of things, and I think definitely the Pact for Skills, all stakeholders, all participating entities really have to look into this. And I think also this is part of what we shall do in the upcoming 4 years with the PANTOUR project. And now this is the occasion to hand over to Anna Maria to present PANTOUR. Anna Maria.
Hello, Klaus. Thank you very much for this invitation. I am happy to say that in PANTOUR project, we will give answer to many of the things that have been outlined today by the previous panelists. So I will share my screen with the presentation I have prepared for this. I hope it is clear enough. And at the end, if Klaus needs it, we will answer the questions you might have. So the question I have been made is that which is the role of PANTOUR in the development of skills? How will PANTOUR help to develop skills in the tourism sector in Europe? Most important thing is to know where PANTOUR comes from. As Klaus has said it before, NTG was our previous project, which was launched nearly 5 years ago. We thought that we had to work on this triangle between job position, skills, and training. We think that for having a good job position, we need to know which skills are necessary and which training is necessary, so we can fit each one another with this training on skills. NTG was focused on these 5 subsectors from the tourism sector. We have accommodation, we have food and beverage, we have visitor attractions, we have travel agencies and tour operators, and destination management. So what did we learn in NTG? What we learned was that people have abilities, which are skills on our professional life. And the addition and combination of skills allows us to develop a job. But different addition or combination of the same skills, that means that my own skills combined on a different way, allow me to develop a different job. So this means that if on my training life, I am improving my skills and the industry provides procedures, I will be able to develop a wide range of different jobs. So it is not only talking about job positions, but talking about the skills which allow me to work on different job positions in a different procedure for the same skills. This is what the last learning from NTG. What we have delivered, what we are delivering to the Commission right now is this blueprint strategy, which is the plan for sectoral cooperation to address skills needs in the tourism sector. So what did we say, the Commission? What we said was that we have to focus on education and skill development for sustainability. We also said that it is necessary to facilitate and to strengthen cooperation of good practices in the tourism sector. That means that we have to create networks to be able to exchange good experiences between us. We have to promote access to education, as we have said on our previous panelists. We also know, and we are committed with upskilling and reskilling in the tourism sector, as our colleague from the Institute, Theodor, has said. We are always learning, and we always have to learn about new procedures for our jobs. So it is absolutely important that we are committed with this upskilling and reskilling of our workforce. And at the end, we should establish a tourism strategy for the recovery of the sector, because we know that this sector is really strong. As Marta has said, we are a very important industry in Europe, but we need to be, all of us, committed to provide resources to improve it and to give us the necessary light to go forward. This blueprint strategy, which is this last output we have, we are sending the European Commission now, will give a framework for the analysis and surveillance of skills needed in the industry. And which are the main goals? Well, the main goal of this blueprint strategy is that it puts together the industry and the workforce, but also the government and the training providers. So this means that any skill needed by the industry will have a reflect on some training courses provided by these training providers, and that the government will be able to know this from the beginning, so they will include this in different curricula, in different training curricula. What will we do on PANTOUR? Well, in PANTOUR, the first point is that also partners will be coming from the industry side, and also for the training provider from the academic. So this means that what industry needs will be known by the academy, and also the academy won't create new curricula, new courses that won't be needed by the industry. So we will eliminate that gap, that training gap. On PANTOUR, what we will do will be to implement the blueprint, this plan that I have presented right now, to boost innovation. And this will be done through cooperation on activities, on partnerships, and on creating new resources. PANTOUR will have this schema. We will have 9 teams on PANTOUR. One team will be this project management, which I will have the honor of leading. We will have another team which will assure our quality, and we will have another transversal team which will be communication and dissemination. The other 6 teams will be doing the research of the needs of the industry, of the needs of the skills need in this industry, and we will have other 3 teams trying to boost the implementation of what is researched. Okay, so what we will close this circle of research and implementation. So the outputs of PANTOUR will be this sectoral skills intelligence and monitor. This means that we will have a methodology that Lajos has just mentioned, this skills assessment methodology, which will provide us with new skills needed all over our life. We will discover these new occupational profiles, which has been also highlighted by Marta and by Theodor. We will have a skills strategy and action plan for the tourism ecosystem. We will deliver new training programs and methodologies which will cover these skills, these needs of skills. We will also deliver some tools for the workforce, for business and education through the Skills Lab. And we will also have this structure that Lajos has just introduced, which are the national and regional skills partnerships. Just 1 minute to recap what Klaus told us at the beginning of the session. The Pact for Skills is also constructed under a partnership which covers from businesses, from UA umbrella organizations, social partners, training providers, and regional and municipal authorities. So this brings us the possibility of upskilling and reskilling the workforce through the digital and green transition and resilience of the touristic sector, as Marie-Helene has highlighted through the transition pathway for tourism. All skills needs any new skill will be covered by this overall policy and this provide of vocational and education training. At the end, what we will have will be something like this. We will have this Pact for Skills, which will have this advisory board on PANTOUR. So we won't be working on anything that is not needed by the industry. This is our main objective, to work only on what the industry really needs. So I think this is enough for today. I think this is enough for what Klaus asked me to do. So I will be happy to share some minutes with you if you wish. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you, Ana Maria. I'm looking in the chat. We don't have really any new questions. The ones from Vika from the tour guides, I think, addressed this already in the previous part. If there's any comment from our panelists, anything you would like to add? Well, then I come to the last moment of this session. This is the last, as you know, the last public event of the Next Tourism Generation Alliance as a consortium, as a structure. We hope the name will survive in the future under a different governance, as was explained already before. But for us, this is really the end. This is the end. All good things come to an end, but better things will hopefully come with PANTOUR and with all of you. So I would just like to invite now for a quick final closer message for this conference and also for the NTG Alliance work. I would invite, like to invite the authors for the Blueprint authoring team, Rachelle O'Brien from Dublin Technical University, and finally Rino Vitelli as a project manager of NTG to say the goodbye to everybody. Goodbye and hello then in a couple of days.
Well, first of all, hello, Klaus. Thank you. Hi, Rino.
Hi.
Will I go first? Klaus, thank you so much for that module session today, and thank you to all your contributors. It was a really interesting and informative session. I suppose I'm sitting here now, being mindful. We opened the conference this morning looking at the NTG Blueprint, and in particular looking at one of the outputs of the project, which was the collaborative governance framework. And having attended all the modules today at our conference, it's certainly clear to me that strategic collaboration between the key stakeholders of industry and education, government and social partners are paramount to address skills needs in the tourism sector as we move forward. Hopefully, the collaborative governance framework will facilitate the establishment and also the continuance of skills partnerships across the European Union. So as you rightly said, Klaus, as the NTG Alliance comes to the end of its journey in its current format, I think it has provided a very solid foundation to support the Pact for Skills, the PANTOUR project, and also the European tourism agenda going forward. All of the outputs from the project are robust, they're all evidence-based, and I think each provides multiple supports, tools and initiatives to assist skills needs in the industry that we love so much. I'd like to thank at this point all of the NTG Alliance partners for their dedication to the project and also for their dedication and enthusiasm for the industry that we all serve. So thank you once again to all of our partners. We really appreciate all the efforts. It's been a very interesting journey. We had a global pandemic in the middle of it, but I think we certainly have achieved what we set out to do with our aims and objectives of the project. So on behalf of myself and all our NTG colleagues, thank you very much. It's been a great 4 years. Thank you.
Well, Rino, the last words.
What a responsibility, Klaus, you are giving to me. I hope to do my best. Well, Klaus, a project like NTG, you know, which lasted 4.5 years, with the involvement of as many as 14 partners representing 8 European countries, obviously went through several phases, different moments, from the most fruitful in terms of results to the less productive ones, such as the ones spent starting from March 2020 with the outbreak of the first pandemic wave. But the scale and the complexity of such a project also allows us to make an interesting final assessment in terms of best practices, success stories, and lessons learned during its implementation. During today's conference, and particularly this module 4, much was said about Pact for Skills. Well, I believe that the synergies developed over the past 3 years with the European Commission for the implementation in the tourism sector of the Pact for Skills encompass and condense the whole meaning of the journey made by the NTG partnership. So let me take a small step back and go to 2017, the year in which the European Commission launched the Sector Skills Alliances. Also, Klaus and Marie-Helene pointed out at the beginning of this session that the basic idea 5 years ago was to develop for the main industrial ecosystem of the European economy, including tourism, the blueprints, namely intervention strategies for identifying and bridging skilled needs in key economic sectors. In which way? Through the creation of specific alliances between the business world, the education and training system, and the public institution, so as to be able to better identify and address the mismatch between labor supply and demand caused by the skills gaps and shortages. So the basic assumption from which the sector skills alliances were born in 2017 was that there could be no revitalization and development of the leading sectors of the European economy without a parallel massive investment in upskilling and reskilling of their workforce. This conviction, reinforced by the disruption produced by COVID-19, also led in 2020 to the launch of the Pact for Skills. Well, I think that a best practice that deserves to be highlighted is the collaboration path undertaken since October 2020 by the NTG project team with the European Commission, and in particular with the DG Grow, for the implementation of the Pact in the tourism sector. In fact, in order to reach out more quickly and engage more effectively with the stakeholders in such a large and fragmented sector, the rationale behind this cooperation was to capitalize on past experience and then start from the work already carried out by the NTG partnership, in charge of managing the Sector Skills Alliance and the tourism industry. So the NTG project team was able to immediately make available to the European Commission all the stakeholders' engagement tools designed, tested, and fine-tuned during the implementation of the NTG project, from the collaborative governance framework to the national and regional skills group. In addition, the NTG project team supported the DG Grow in defining the key performance indicator of the Pact, and through the national and regional skills group, carried out a skills intelligence action following a double direction, top-down from the European level to the national regional level, to spread in the different countries of the continent the inputs and guidelines coming from the Commission, and vice versa, bottom-up, to bring to the European Commission the feedback, expectation, and needs expressed by the territories. In this way, the synergies developed with the DG Grow also became a success story, because they represented a concrete and fruitful example of that cooperation in the field of identifying and bridging skills gaps that inspired both the launch of the Sector Skills Alliances in 2017 and the launch of the Pact for Skills in 2020. Furthermore, and finally, the fact that the National Regional Skills Group established by the NTG project will continue to perform their functions even after the conclusion of the project also demonstrates the sustainability of project results and their ability to produce tangible benefits even in the medium-long term. In conclusion of this conference, but especially of this long journey, I would like to thank all the NTG project partners, the stakeholders who supported our work, and the European Commission for believing in our team. Wishing a big good luck to the PANTOUR project partnership. We will be in charge of implementing the blueprint in the tourism sector for the next 4 years. I therefore can declare the NTG Conference 2022 officially closed. So, hello everyone, ciao a tutti, hola a todos, au revoir tout le monde.
Thanks, everybody. I think